Hey there, thanks for tuning into Bricks. I'm Chris, and today we have an early look at the brand new Republic Juggernaut, aka the Clone Turbo Tank. Now, for $160, I have to say, this may be the most overpriced LEGO set we have gotten in years, and I am so sorry to say that because the set itself is not that bad. It is just insanity to me that this is $160 at around 800 pieces. I have a lot more to say, especially on the value of that set, what this means for the future of LEGO Star Wars, and so much more, so join me now for this early look at the Republic Juggernaut, the good, the bad, and the pricey. This is the brand new Clone Turbo Tank, aka the Republic Juggernaut, which is the official name of the set, probably because LEGO no longer wants to use the word tank in a set name. It's set number 75413, and when this was first leaked, I was so excited. Finally, for $160, 150 euros, we were going to get a return to form, a massive Clone Turbo Tank to rival even the bigger ones that we got from the very first version we ever had. And then the images came out, the piece count came out at 813 pieces. And yeah, massive this is not. $160 for 813 pieces for a set of this size is bonkers. It is very rare for me to say off the bat that this set should be 50% off. This set should be $80, and yet it is $160. And I stand by that. If this set was $80 US, this would be hailed as like one of the best Star Wars sets of all time. Yeah, the Clone Turbo Tank is small. It's a lot smaller than I think it should be, and it's not the greatest build, but for $80, that would be pretty perfect. Okay, at least they're depicting it at a smaller scale. But $160 is absolutely nuts. It does not make any sense to me. I don't understand why this is $160, and unfortunately, I feel like that has very negatively colored my opinion of this set and many other people's opinions of the set as well. Because on its own, I actually think this is kind of fun to play around with. It is very steerable, it is easy to roll around, it can go around rough terrain. I was just having fun the other day rolling it around my bed, and I was really enjoying that. And for the briefest of moments, I forgot I was living in a world where I was playing with this toy and forgetting that it costs $160. But alas, reality set in, and I began to wonder why on earth anybody would pay $160 for something like this. This is, by pure physical scale, the smallest version of the Clone Turbo Tank we have ever gotten in LEGO form. We've gotten quite a few of them over the years. The first one was 2005 for the Clone Turbo Tank 7261, then we got one in 2010, 8098, then we got one in 2016, 75151, and now finally we're getting this one, 75413, and it's even smaller than the one we got in 2016, which was only $110 US and came with 903 pieces, which was actually more pieces than this one. I don't know, it is just baffling to me. I'm sorry to keep waffling on and on about the price, but I really am not happy with the price of this model. And I feel like that is really hurting the set for me, more than it would a normal set, because I'm actually quite annoyed at how expensive this is. It is one of the most egregiously overpriced sets of the year. It's the new Hoopty, it's the new General Grievous' Starfighter. Those look like bargain deals compared to this. But enough about the price, let's actually finally take a look at the actual model and see if there is any merit to the model by itself, which I actually think there absolutely is. Detail-wise, I've seen a lot of people complain about the brick-built wheels, how they're wasting the budget, and they basically shouldn't have been brick-built, and it's just a way for LEGO to add an excuse to use more pieces. And let me say this. LEGO was not having to come up with excuses to use more pieces. When this set has like 800 pieces for $160, I don't think that's it. I actually think what they were trying to do was they had to make the wheels be brick built because they don't really have an existing wheel piece that fits this exact scale. The last time they had a set at this similar scale, they used the Lego Castle wheels, but honestly, these do look a lot better. I like how you actually have detail added into them. The wheels themselves are built really nicely, and I also actually appreciate the fact that they feel like they're made for rough terrain. They're the most accurate wheels we've ever gotten for this model, so I'm actually kinda okay and happy with the wheels being brick built, and clearly they didn't inflate the parts count that much because it only has 813 pieces to begin with. But moving on to the rest of the model itself, I think the shaping is pretty good, okay in some areas for the most part, but there are some strange oddities to it. There's a very obvious gap on the top of the model, and that is supposed to be to place a minifigure in that seat, but when there's no minifigure, it is a really weird and obvious gap, and I feel like that totally could have been just covered up by a few more pieces. Same goes for the side of the model here, where there just clearly is just a very big gap on the side of the build, which could have been plugged up. Even around the sides of the window pane here, there's just very obvious pieces that I feel just don't really feel congruent with the very armored look of the vehicle. Thankfully, when you rotate it to the front, there are pretty much no gaps. The front cockpit is really solid, but the back one just feels a little bit iffy when it comes to the way it's put together. Altogether though, I actually do like the building techniques used for the steering function. There are rubber elements being used in the centerpiece to allow you to pretty much have it always steer straight, but also allow you to have it steer back and forth. And of course, this does have a quote-unquote full interior, although again, there really isn't that much to the interior. It's basically just seating space for the clone troopers. I do feel like this could have been really benefiting from some sort of a deployable speeder or ATRT, but wait, that wouldn't have even fit in the model because the model itself is so small. So all they could even do with the space was put in seats, and even then, you're gonna have a hard time getting your finger in there for some of them. The back cockpit does have seating for one minifigure, maybe two if you really squeeze them, but really it's supposed to be just one figure in the back, and the middle part here doesn't even have any interior space. It's really just all for show. So as it is right now, it is just a fully empty model, pretty much no interior, but the only big improvement they've made to this set over previous iterations are the usage of the brand new transparent 2x4 plates we first saw in LEGO Minecraft being used on the sides of the windows, so the windows aren't just pasted on top of the actual panels here, they actually are somewhat see-through and they do let light through. So I do think that is a big improvement, the way they've done the windows, and they've only been able to do that since they improved the plastic they use for transparent pieces and actually allows you to have them be made as plates now, which I think is really nice. And I can't wait to see how many doors that opens for LEGO building in the future. Who knows, fully transparent minifigures may be possible. Altogether, this is a frustrating set for me. I actually kind of like it as its own sort of standalone build as a smaller scaled version of the Juggernaut. $80 would have been perfect. I would have been like, okay, obviously this isn't like the play scale clone turbo tanks of old, but it's not trying to be. It would be like, this is the Jango Fett or Boba Fett Slave 1, right? If we're getting that for $50 or even $70, sure, it's a lot smaller than what we used to get, but it is also a lot cheaper. It's made for a different audience, I get that. But if you're charging $160 for a clone turbo tank, I expect that to be a lot more sizable than this. LEGO sets have gotten smaller over the years, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. As I mentioned in my review of the V19 Torrent, I was saying that basically LEGO went from an original model where basically they were maximizing size and they were making things very flimsy and under-detailed, and they were trying to make them as big as possible. And now they've kind of course-corrected in the complete opposite direction, where models are becoming much more smaller and more detailed and more stable in the most part. But again, that is a big trade-off with size, and this is very emblematic of that. If only the price also reflected that, I would have been totally fine if this was $80. But alas. Jumping into the minifigures, let's take a look at the first figure here, which is Ki-Adi-Mundi. This also brings up a completely different point of topic about this set, where this scene is clearly depicting a scene featuring a UTAT and not a Juggernaut, but LEGO decided to play it safe and go with the Juggernaut, but I'm not going to fault the set for being a completely different thing that I want, so we'll leave it at that. Ki-Adi-Mundi is pretty nicely detailed, and I didn't notice any differences in the headpiece compared to the one we got last time in 2016, I believe. So it has been a while. I don't have the original figure on me right now. It's back at home and I'm not at home, but it is a really nice figure as it is, no real complaints. Much more exciting though are the additions of Ki-Adi-Mundi's troops for the very first time. This right here is Commander Bakara, making a minifigure appearance for the first time in LEGO form with a brand new helmet mold. I am a big fan of this piece, and I cannot wait to see what LEGO does with the piece. There are a lot of other clones they can use with the same helmet, so I love that piece, and I think the clone itself is really nicely done. But where are the helmet holes? I kid. This is actually really nice, and I'm very, very happy with this figure. The other figures included in the set are the Republic Commandos, and they also are really nicely done. Again, these are figures we've been wanting from LEGO ever since they appeared in Revenge of the Sith, and we still haven't gotten them ever until now. They're utilizing another brand new helmet piece being used for these figures with a dark red and white dual molding. I mean, maybe that's where the budget went, having two new molds for the helmets, but again, it still doesn't excuse 160. I'm not letting them off the hook that easily. But I will say, again, these figures are pretty nicely detailed. It would have been cool to have, again, a cloth comma be used where clearly they have parts of a comma being printed on, or at the very least, maybe like dual molded legs, like mold the upper legs in dark red if you really don't want to have kids put on a cloth element. But as it is, I actually do like these figures, and I'm very curious to see if they're going to use that helmet piece for like snowtroopers moving forwards, or if they're just going to use the same one that they've been using, because that one technically is more accurate, but this is very perfect for the Galactic Marine piece. It is a slightly different shape, and they've pretty much perfectly captured it, so I actually really like the figures here. Lastly, it does include 3 battle droids. I would have been totally fine with no battle droids and like a few more dollars off, but I guess you do need to have an opposing separatist faction in this set, so you get some battle droids. They're okay, they are unchanged since 1999 basically because their design is without flaw. Moving on though, I think I have summed up everything I have to say about this set. Again, not happy with the price at all, $160, crazy, you know the drill, that's all I have to say about this one, but alas, I do feel bad because I do think that this is genuinely a fun set. It's a lot of fun to play with, the minifigures are phenomenal, the build is genuinely fun, and while it is a lot smaller than the other sets that we've gotten similarly in the past, it is a good build, it is decent for what it is. It's just way too expensive, and that sums up my thoughts. Can never recommend this set at full price. Not even at like 20% off. Like, I can really only recommend it at 50% off, and you're never gonna find it for 50 off, so it is what it is. That's all for this review, and hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments what you think of this model, and stay tuned for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon. Bye for now.